I never thought my own daughter would become the reason I'd stop believing in family. For 60 years I worked, sacrificed, and loved, thinking that if I gave everything I'd be respected till my last breath. But I was wrong. Because 10 days before Thanksgiving, I discovered that my daughter, my own blood, was planning to humiliate me in front of the entire family, and then throw me out of my own house. It started with whispers, small things I overheard when she thought I wasn't listening. I had moved in with her after my wife died. The house was big, beautiful, and full of laughter, or at least that's what I told myself when I left my old home behind. I sold it and gave her the money to help pay her mortgage. She said it was our family home now, and I believed her. I believed every word. But people change when they think you have no more use left for them. My daughter Hannah had become distant since I retired. I didn't earn money anymore, and maybe that changed how she saw me. Her husband, Dave, was always polite but cold, like a man doing favors out of obligation. Then one evening, I walked past the kitchen door and froze. Hannah was on a call with someone, laughing softly, saying words that sliced through my heart. She said, after Thanksgiving, Dad's moving out. We'll do it nicely, make it look like his choice, but I'll make sure he's embarrassed enough not to argue. My breath stopped, my knees shook, I leaned against the wall so I wouldn't fall. My daughter, planning my humiliation. That night I couldn't sleep. Every laugh I'd shared with her played back in my mind like cruel jokes. I remembered the day she was born, my hands trembling as I held her for the first time. I remembered her high school graduation, her tears on her wedding day, how I walked her down the aisle. And now she wanted to walk me out of her house. I didn't cry, not that night. Instead, something darker grew inside me, a slow-burning fire that whispered one word: revenge. I didn't want to hurt her. I just wanted her to feel what I was feeling: betrayal, shame, and regret. So I made a plan. Over the next few days, I acted as if I didn't know anything. I smiled at her, helped decorate the house for Thanksgiving, and talked to her kids like nothing had changed. But quietly, I started preparing. I called my lawyer, Mr. Jenkins, the same man who had handled my wife's estate. I told him I wanted to make some quick changes in my financial documents. He didn't ask too many questions. He just said, "Come by tomorrow." By noon the next day, everything was ready. The house deed, which I had foolishly added her name to years ago, was changed back under my ownership. She had no idea I had kept a quiet clause when we transferred it. And I opened a new bank account, moving what was left of my savings there. Then I wrote a letter not to her but to myself. It said, "You may have lost your family, but you haven't lost your dignity." I kept that letter in my wallet as a reminder that revenge wasn't always about anger. Sometimes it was about walking away with your pride. As Thanksgiving came closer, I watched her fake smiles grow stronger. She told everyone she was planning a big surprise dinner for me. She even told the kids to make me cards that said, "We love you, Grandpa." Maybe she thought it would make her betrayal feel softer. The night before Thanksgiving, she and her husband went out shopping for groceries. I went into my room and packed quietly, not all my things, just enough to leave behind confusion. I left my clothes hanging, my slippers under the bed, and my old watch on the table. Then I opened my drawer and placed a sealed envelope inside. Inside that envelope, I put a note and a copy of the new house deed. The note said, "You wanted to kick me out after Thanksgiving. Don't bother. You're the one leaving. The house isn't yours anymore. Check the papers. And when you tell everyone what happened, tell them why, because you plan to humiliate your father." When I sealed that envelope, I smiled for the first time in days. The next morning I left early before anyone woke up. I didn't leave a sound behind. I went to a quiet motel near the ocean, one I used to visit with my wife years ago. The receptionist recognized me, gave me my old room, and said, "It's been a long time, Mr. Miller." I nodded and said softly, "Yes, it has." Around noon, my phone buzzed again and again. I ignored the first few calls, but when her name flashed for the 10th time, I answered. Her voice was shaking. "Dad, where are you? What's going on? Why are there papers in your drawer? Why does it say you own the house?" I laughed softly. "You told someone you were going to embarrass me and kick me out, Hannah. I just decided to leave before you could do it. And now, you're the one who has to move." She went silent for a few seconds. Then she screamed, "You can't do this. This is my house." "No," I said quietly, "it was our house. Now it's mine again. Have a nice Thanksgiving." And I hung up. That scream, I'll never forget it. It wasn't just anger. It was realization. She finally knew what betrayal felt like. That night, as the waves crashed outside my motel window, I didn't feel happy, just free. For 60 years I had lived for others. For once I had lived for myself. Still, a part of me missed her, the little girl she used to be before greed changed her heart. I wondered if she'd ever think about what she lost, not in property or comfort, but in love. As I looked out at the dark ocean, I whispered to myself, maybe one day she'll understand. But deep down, I knew she wouldn't. 3 days after Thanksgiving, I was sitting on the motel balcony, watching seagulls fight over a piece of bread, when my phone buzzed again. It was my grandson, Jacob, Hannah's boy. He sounded confused and sad. "Grandpa, Mom's crying all day. She says you left and took everything. Why did you do that? Did she do something bad?" I closed my eyes. My heart tightened. I loved that boy more than anything. He was innocent. None of this was his fault. I said softly, "Your mom made a mistake, Jacob. Grown-ups sometimes do things they regret. I just needed to take a little break." He said, "Will you come home for Christmas?" I didn't know what to say. I just whispered, "We'll see, kiddo. Take care of your little sister for me." When I ended the call, I realized something. Revenge may balance the pain, but it doesn't heal the wound. I had won, yes, but I was alone. Still, I didn't regret it, because sometimes walking away is the only way to make someone understand how deeply they've hurt you. A week later, a letter arrived at the motel front desk, handwritten, with my name on it. It was from Hannah. The first line read, "Dad, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please, just hear me out." She wrote that she had panicked after Thanksgiving. When her husband found out the house was legally mine again, he lost his temper. He blamed her for everything, called her names, and stormed out. He said he couldn't live with someone who'd humiliate her own father. She wrote he left Dad. He took his things and said he was done. "The kids are confused and I don't know what to do. I wish I could take it all back. I was just angry that you sold Mom's house and moved in with us. I thought you were taking over my life. I didn't realize how much you had already given up for me." Tears fell on the letter as I read it. I could almost hear her voice in every line, a mix of regret and fear. She ended with, "If you ever want to talk, please come home. I'll be waiting. I promise I'll make things right." I put the letter down and walked outside. The air was cold, sharp, and clean. I took a deep breath and looked at the horizon. For the first time in years, I didn't feel old. I felt powerful, not because I had taken revenge, but because I had taken back control of my life. Still, I couldn't ignore her pain. She was my daughter after all. So I decided to visit her, not to forgive, not to forget, but to see if she had truly changed. When I reached the house, it looked different. The garden was unkempt. The lights were off. There was no laughter, no warmth. I knocked softly. She opened the door, her face pale and her eyes swollen from crying. "Dad," she whispered, almost afraid to look at me. I stepped inside slowly. The living room was messy, dishes stacked in the sink, toys scattered everywhere. Her kids ran to me and hugged my legs. "Grandpa," they shouted, their smiles breaking the tension in the air. I looked at Hannah. "Where Dave?" I asked. She looked down. "He left. He said he couldn't stay with me after what I did to you." I nodded. He was right. Her eyes filled with tears. "I know, I lost everything, Dad. My husband, my home, and almost you. I don't blame anyone but myself." There was silence for a long time. Finally, she said, "If you want me to leave, I'll pack up today. You own the house. You have every right." I looked around at the pictures on the walls, the family memories, the laughter frozen in frames. Then I said softly, "You'll stay, but this time under one condition." She looked up surprised. "What condition?" I said, "You'll pay the rent, every month, a fair amount. I'll live separately, but the house stays in my name. Maybe that will remind you never to take what's not yours again." She nodded slowly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'll do it, I swear." And she did. Every month a check arrived in my mailbox, small but steady. Sometimes she'd write a short note with it, "Hope you're doing okay. Kids miss you. Thinking of you." I rarely replied, but I kept every note. They were small pieces of her guilt and her healing. Months passed. Life became quiet again. I spent my mornings walking by the beach, my evenings reading books my wife used to love. And every night before bed, I'd look at the photo on my nightstand, me, my wife, and little Hannah on her first day of school. I'd whisper, "She's learning now, honey, slowly, but she's learning." But fate has a strange way of testing the heart. One evening, I got a call from the hospital. Hannah had been in a car accident. It wasn't serious, but they said she had no one else listed as her emergency contact, only me. I went to see her. She was lying in bed, pale but alive. When she saw me, her lips trembled. "Dad," she said softly, "I thought I'd die before I could say this. I'm sorry. Not just for what I did, but for what I became. You didn't deserve any of it." I sat beside her, holding her hand. "I know," I said quietly. "You lost your way, but you found it again. That's what matters." Her eyes filled with tears. "Do you forgive me?" I looked at her for a long time. Then I smiled faintly and said, "Forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about not letting it poison the future. So yes, I forgive you." She started crying, holding my hand tighter, whispering, "Thank you, Dad." That night, as I drove back to the motel, I realized something profound. Revenge had taught her what love couldn't. And forgiveness had freed me from the weight of my own anger. 2 years later, I decided to move back into the city. I bought a small house, simple but peaceful. I planted roses in the front yard, just like my wife used to. Sometimes Hannah and the kids visit. We eat dinner, laugh, and remember old times. There's still a quiet distance between us, not coldness, just awareness. She knows the line she crossed, and I know the pain she carries for it. But life has a way of softening even the hardest memories. Now, whenever I sit on my porch watching the sunset, I smile. Not because everything turned out perfect, but because I survived the storm with my dignity intact. I proved that a father's love can be deep enough to forgive, and strong enough to fight back when that love is betrayed. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge is not destruction. It's rebuilding on your own terms, in your own peace.